present it done, but I just try not to overdo it. But the biggest thing I've learned is being personable and showing the bit like you were saying with the social thing, being able to work with many different types from medicals, because one thing they told us at Boeing is they showed us that there's, I think we only have 3, maybe 4 jobs that are not at Boeing. They have doctors on staff, they don't have veterinary, and they don't have one of the, I forgot what it is.
They do not have doctors?
They have a doctor.
Have doctors.
They have doctors that are hired, that are like Boeing is a international business, it's a $1 billion company. They say they have jobs tomorrow, they have nurses on staff, they have doctors, they have, of course, the cafeteria workers, they have janitors, they have all types of people, they have psychologists on payroll, like they have a lot of different jobs. So they tell you, don't pigeonhole yourself to just, if you want to look at something else and intrigues you, check it out. So the idea of learning about what it takes to do some things, if it's something that's not too much of a stretch, I'm willing to check it out. Like I said, with the business versus engineering, I could, if I wanted to, I could still stay in Boeing and just transfer over to my business side after getting an MBA, because they have business sides in Boeing. So that's why I'm taking this as an opportunity to learn different things about different professions and things like that. But also because I have friends who work in it. I have friends who's one who wants to come, he's studying for the PCAT right now, another one who's working on the MCAT. I had experience with the MCAT people because I worked the biomedical engineering internship at UTHSC because my parents used to work there. So I've been around the medical stuff a lot. I just didn't feel like I wanted to do it too strong, so I went strictly on engineering. But I did try to dab into it by doing biomedical engineering, which kind of took me into understanding I have to learn the biology part. Not a big fan of it as much as I am in my engineering field, so that's why I stuck where I am now.
Okay.
But I'm able to transfer because if I was to take those required biology or biomedical classes, I could easily learn more and get a biomedical engineering degree.
Okay.
I have a question for you. What happens, with the company downsizing? What happens when you graduate if they don't have a position for you?
That would be an interesting situation because as of right now, Boeing, according to them, they have grown over the last year. Where everybody else has been downsizing, they've actually grown or restructured. But the biggest thing is if they know your value to the company, because I'm technically still a full-time employee. I'm just on what we call educational leave of absence. So my benefits don't accumulate right now from now to May. But once May hits, when my ELOA is up, I go back to getting all my benefits, I get my vacation hours, everything starts accruing back. And as long as I get into a position, I talk to a manager and go work for them, I'm back full-time, working full-time, starting that day. It's not to go through introduction or orientation. I go straight to work the very first day that I come back. It's almost like pause and stop. But what I was told by the manager is that one thing they look at is they want to keep their employees or previous experiences that are beneficial to the company. So every time I'm there, I try to leave a mark saying that I did something different or made an influence in my short time. So every time they look at my resume, well, even though we're downsizing over here, he can make a benefit over here. So like I said, I've worked 4 different jobs. All of them not necessarily directed, actually, only one has been directed in my actual field, my discipline of system engineering. I've done electrical, mechanical, a little bit of architectural, and I think I forgot the name of material. It was like material science. This is not material science, but material engineering. I had to work with all of them. I just got in there, learned it as quick as I could, and did my work. So I basically try to show that I have a work to the company, and that's the best thing I can do. But at the same time, I'm still always watching out for those other opportunities. The thing I say is I will still apply if I see an opportunity that's there outside of Boeing, but that company has to have a benefits or a connection, pay and benefits that rival or beat Boeing for me to leave. Because I've already got, once I start full-time for good, they backtracked my service date to the very first day I started. So right now they only give me 2 years officially. But once I start, if I start next year, 2017 would be 5 years, they will go back and say I've been working for 5 years. So that's 5 years already toward my retirement. They have 5 years invested because it goes back to the first day that I started. It's on there, but they always move it up a year or two while you're doing the summer because they don't consider it a whole year. But once I start full time, they're gonna go all the way back to 2012, 12. That's how they say they do it. So my thing is I'm trying to show them that I have to work for it, but I'm still also looking into other opportunities if the opportunity is there.
So Courtney, what we were doing was, one of the things we talked about was, which you did the introduction part of it, but your aspirations so that the panel could sort of know where you, what's your trajectory. In other words, we're not gonna take for granted because you're getting a doctorate in physical therapy that's your, you know, what's that saying, all, what all, do all, whatever. Yeah, yes. So, so since you came in, Nate, we give you opportunity to say, you know, what are your aspirations after you finish in terms of getting your DPT degree?
After I get my DPT degree, I want to certify in some area of DPT. What that area is right now, I'm not sure. I'm still trying to find my way through, still trying to figure out my path, where I want to actually certify in. So that's still unknown, but I always said I wanted to open up my own clinic. I think that would be a good opportunity for me just to excel more in the world of physical therapy if I was to open up my own physical therapy clinic. But outside of that, I also wanted to start a nonprofit organization. Again, what that is, I'm not sure yet, but I do know I wanted to be catered towards black men because, just minorities in general, specifically African American men, because, we need some help, and we need some positive role models in the community. And I feel like if I was to start up an organization, I would want to help our population. So
The interesting thing for me is to hear, and I didn't say it earlier, but we had one of the students earlier who's in our biology PhD, she's a PhD in biology. And she too wants her MBA. It is amazing to me how many of you all, which is not a bad thing, but amazing how many of you all, including yourself, who's getting yours, are wanting to somehow get some type of business component in your degrees in STEM. I mean, because they're just so, I don't say they're far apart, but I mean, you just wouldn't, 10, 15 years ago, an engineer or somebody in the STEM area was in the STEM field, somebody in business was in the business field. Now things are becoming so integrated. It goes back to what you were saying, so integrated, and it's a great thing, it's just so different to hear that now,
Right.
because I never heard neither one of you all say that. Actually, you either. I've never heard any. Well, like I said, it's a great thing. I just have never heard you all say that.
Right.
Tamara Martin is what I'm talking about. She and I talked extensively because we actually had one panelist who flight was delayed. He was coming in from Chicago, and he took the business route. And so when she came to me and asked me about the panel and wanted to know if we could bring someone in who went the business route, I was like, sure. But unfortunately, his plane was delayed because of the snow weather up there. I don't know, since you're getting your MBA, maybe it's a dialogue we have right now, since we have all three of these gentlemen who are looking at MBAs, is, and you all can chime in too, because that could be a thought process that you all had as well, what that really looks like. What's the benefit? You actually getting it now, so why did you decide to go down that route?
At the end of the day, I would like you, I wouldn't mind opening my own pharmacy,
Right.
or being the top manager of a hospital. As we said in the earlier session, pharmacy school is becoming very competitive. We went from one school 10 years ago, now we're up to 6. So adding that component in the long run is going to be beneficial because the company I work for now is Walgreens, and so in the setting, you have a staff pharmacist, then you have a pharmacy manager. A lot of the pharmacy managers aren't groomed for that position, they just kind of get thrown in that position. So I feel like the MBA will kind of help groom me into being that manager. So I don't know if certain schools offer certain concentrations for DPT, something you can probably research for. It's never a demise going out to the MBA.
Right.
Can I ask a question? Just to everybody on the panel. As far as your pursuit and where you are now, I guess maybe like a brief summary of if you started out when you were 18 and you were, fresh on campus, like, okay, where you are now is where I plan to be. From a standpoint of, you know, like Courtney and myself, we're in this physical therapy thing, but as far as what specific population we like to work in is still up in the air. So, I mean, it's not always as cut and dry, like, okay, I want to work for Walgreens, I'm going to be in Memphis, you know what I'm saying? As far as that process, if you're where you planned on being, and, you know, if you're happy with where you are now, as far as, you know, where you planned on being, not to get too deep into it, but it's so easy to get into a professional field and be like, you know, this is always what I wanted, and then sometimes you get there and it's not what you expected it to be. Not saying that that's the case for any of you all, but I know that that's very true, that holds true. You know, you can have all the money in the world and have all the success and still not, it wasn't what you expected it to be. So if I could just get a summary from each of you as far as, you know, what got you here, and if this is where you plan to be. We can start on the left. I wouldn't mind hearing, so we can start on the left.
So,
Like, did you always want to be a doctor? Like, it's, you know.
yeah, so no, like, nah, I haven't always wanted to be a doctor. When I initially went to school, like, my dad told me that I wanted to be a doctor. So,
Yeah, exactly.
whatever. So I wasn't really into it, right? So I told the last group, I had a semester where I made all Fs, you know, and I made some more Fs after that. But eventually it got to the point where I was like, you know, like, what am I gonna do with myself? What am I gonna do with my life? You know, like, and, you know, I was at that transition point and I realized, okay, I wanted to do something more. I initially started off with biomedical engineering, and then I like biomedical engineering. I did an internship with that as well. And then I feel like I was still selling. I was more interested in the actual diseases and how we treat them. So I was like, you know, making all these Fs to do this, I might not ever make it to medical school, but I was like, I'm really gonna kick myself if I don't try. So that was when it started, you know, so that's when, like, that's why, like, that's when I knew that I wanted to go to medical school, and I was going to go, and I was gonna put everything I had into it to get to medical school. And that's when the grind started, so that's when, you know, it turned from, I'll study that stuff later to, I'm staying up all night until I get it, you know, and that was a transition, and that was probably like 2010. And at the time, I didn't even graduate with my bachelor's. So, like, I pretty much finished my bachelor's degree. I was taking like 19 to 21 hours each semester just to finish my bachelor's degree quick. Came back to Nashville, started my master's, but, you know, I messed up already, so I need to, like, prove myself a little bit more. But it was all a process, but it wasn't something I had figured out at the beginning. But once I figured it out, then I was gonna go, this is what I'm going for. And if I don't get in, I know that I wasn't supposed to get in there because I put everything I had into it. So, yeah, I mean, I always tell that to my little brother, to like my cousins, anybody like that. It's kind of weird when people ask me for advice because I'm like, you know, like I still look at myself as, you know, just a regular person. Like other people kind of see like, oh, you're in professional school, but I really see it as like, it's really about that drive. You know, like once you figure out what you want to do, keep going at it. Like, do not stop until you put everything you can into it. And then I'm here today, and it's not what I expected. I thought that I would be like, you know, killing me in school, like this, that. But like I'm doing well, but at the same time, like I'm still pushing myself. It's always a work in progress. Like you're always pushing it, become better and better and better and better. So, yeah, I would just say that it'll probably never end up the way you expect it to end up, but it's always going to be something that you're going to enjoy. And at least if you put that much work into it, I feel like you'll always enjoy it to some degree.
Did I always want to get a PhD? No. After graduating high school, so choices were go be a nurse or go be a doctor because that was all that I was surrounded by from a small town. So nobody really had a PhD. Nobody talked about that, doing research. Either nurse, doctor, maybe a dentist. That's about it. So went to a community college, got into a nursing program, flunked out the first semester. And okay, what do I need to do? So finished up, got the associate's degree as a university transfer, went to Jackson State University, decided I wanted to go to medical school. okay, along that time at Jackson State University, I got a full scholarship and messed up and ended up dropping the GPA required for that full scholarship. So ended up along the way, had to take out loans and stuff. So, but still trying to do, okay, we'll see how the medical school route goes. And took a captain course, paid all that money for the course, never took the MCAT to actually see if I could get into medical school. Then my path got switched, changed, because I got into a career development program at Jackson State that was geared to bioinformatics and computational biology. Great program, and as a undergraduate, money is the first thing that catches your eye. So they said they would pay you $1,000 every month. Good money as an undergraduate. Awesome. And they would allow you to travel over the summer for free. Great. So that exposed me to research. So once I got into the research side, started to go into these conferences for free and stuff. Okay, this is cool. I can do this. Then after graduating from Jackson State, got a post-bac opportunity at the National Laboratory in Washington State. Stayed there 2.5 years. Realized, okay, it's time for me to go back to grad school. While I was at Washington State, I ended up taking courses at Washington State University. Got into a biological systems engineering program, which that was not comfortable. I felt like I would have been miserable for that program, so decided to apply for school back down south. Got accepted at TSU, went through master's. Towards the end of my master's, I started thinking, okay, do I want to do a PhD? Do I want to change the type of PhD? I thought about going to education. So it was like, what type of PhD do I want to do? And so I'm at this point to where I feel like I'm on the right path because I have a knack for teaching, and I figured this out while in undergrad. Because my peers that were in the bioinformatics program, they would come to me, ask me to help them out with this. Can you tell me how you got those results from this, da, da, da. And then even my undergraduate advisor, he saw that. So after I graduated from Jackson State, there was one semester where I was at Jackson State. So he hired me, told me to come up with a program, told me to advertise the program, told me to pick the students for this program and to mentor them. I enjoyed all of that. I really did. So that exposed to me. I really like teaching, I really like mentoring, and to add on the research aspect. So I feel like I am on the right path now. It took all of that flunking out of nursing school, decided that I didn't want to go to med school to get to this point now. So yeah, I think I'm headed there.
Let's see. Coming out of high school, I wanted to do med school. Then I was exposed to doctors, and it was too stressful. I said, they stressed out, I'm not doing that. So I said, well, what else? Because I love science. I started like a science freshman biology dissection, you know. And so I said, well, it's still science, what do I do? So I went, got my bachelor's, started at UC Davis. Had a wonderful time, had to stop, go to JUCO school. Finished JUCO, got a transfer scholarship, you know, thought I had everything together, thought I learned how to study. Went to OU, had a wonderful time there, transferred to Langston. And tried to figure out, basically, what do I still want to do? I still knew I wanted science. When I graduated Langston, I still didn't know. I was supposed to be taking the year off, but I had applied to one school, TSU. Right after I applied, I got a letter from TSU saying I got a TA ship. So that's why I came. During my transition of TSU, I figured out that I liked research along the way. Also figured out my teaching of my 9 years, being a TA, that I actually liked teaching students, and I liked teaching college students at that. And so basically that's my track. I'm doing a postdoc now to learn more research skills, and I'm currently applying for faculty positions. So,
Started out at Tuskegee in a bachelor's degree program, and I just kind of fell upon research, took a research course, and I liked it, but I was still thinking of medical school, so I said, okay, 2 years for a master's program would be a small obligation, and just along the way, I got more into the research, and I completely went toward that path. Along the way, I also had a TA-ship. So it's a lot of teachers in my family, not a lot of people in science. I think I have an uncle and a cousin that are in the science track, but majority of the family's teachers. So I knew at some aspect or way that I would be. But they're more so elementary, a few high school. I knew I did not want to do that. And I had a passion for college students, walking on campus for that first time and kind of guiding them to the next steps. So I did a PhD program here. I like research, kept going. So now I'm doing a postdoc to, just strengthen my skills. And then ultimately I'll still also teach and do research, which I'm doing now. I'm in a postdoc program. So it's both components as to where I would teach at a college as to fulfill my job requirements. But recently I think I've been thinking a little bit about going back to school. I'm not sure, but I've had those thoughts about still pursuing an MD. I'm not quite sure, but I don't think I want to be a student right now. So just kind of explore. I had my time. I was professional at one point. So, yeah.
Okay, so if you asked me at 18 if I wanted to be a dentist, I would have said yes. If you would have asked me when I first got into dental school if I wanted to do oral surgery, I would have probably looked at you a little crazy. I think most people, by that point, they just look at the time that it takes, the extra 4 years, the extra school. But for me, I just wanted to invest in myself. I think I was a lot of self-motivation. I don't have anybody in the medical arena in my family. Nobody's a medical doctor, a physician, anything like that. So a lot of self-motivation, self-determination, and goal setting, knowing what I want and going for it. So for me, if you ask me if I'm happy where I'm at now, I would say, of course, But I think a lot of us see, the outside. They don't see the work it takes to get there. They only want the end result without the hard work that takes to go into it. So, it wasn't the easiest ride. I think I've always had days where I'm like, what am I getting myself into? And I had days where I'm like, oh, this is amazing. But I feel like you have to just take the good with the bad. At the end of the day, I feel like you'll be happy where your passion is. If you're passionate about something, if you really want to do something, then you'll always be happy. If you try to find a career based off money, if the money dries up, then you're like, where am I at? What am I doing? So for me, that's what makes the biggest difference. But I think just believing in yourself more than anything is the biggest thing, and never giving up. I know a lot of people, I know a lot of friends that wanted to do like med school or dental school and they didn't get in, and they keep trying, they still don't get in, but they'll still say, I'm gonna be a doctor. And I'm like, okay girl, yes we are, So just never give up on yourself, because you are your biggest support system.
Coming out of high school, I'm supposed to be in the NBA.
I feel you. Anybody, you gotta feel it.
Didn't meet that height requirement. I didn't want to become a pharmacist till 2008, my junior year in college. Had a great internship and was guided in the right direction. Everything just kind of fell in place.
So you feel you where you are should be?
I don't put an age. Some of my classmates, they put an age with it. Well, at 30, I'm supposed to be graduated by now. I'm supposed to have a house. I don't put an age by it.
Yes, added stress and pressure that you really don't need. Does that answer your question?
It does. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So, obviously none of it should be money driven. That's always just that elephant in the room. But as far as, supporting, I don't know if you all have families or your future families, that's gonna be something that, is gonna come into play. So, Me personally, the idea of helping someone is what, that's that first answer that anyone gives when they're going into a field of medicine, any type of field of therapy where you're actually trying to provide some type of service to another. But at the end of the day, they say self-preservation is the first law of nature. So in order for me to be able to help you, I have to be able to help myself and my future family. So at some point, money does have to become, something that you think about, like, what is this check gonna be like? Because if I can't, fend for my family and for myself, then I'm not gonna be able to help anyone else. So I kind of like to just ask, where did money come into play at all, or is it just one of those things that, no one wants to admit?
Yeah, I mean, I can agree. It's coming into a point now. So residencies for pharmacy students aren't required, but it's recommended. The most of residency you can do is 2 years. It's called PGY1 and the PGY2. Some places you can combine. The most I've seen so far is between 45 and 55, compared to if you come straight out and work for Walgreens, that's about 120. So I'm looking at, okay, I got loans, I got a child, at 120 is looking good.
Real good.
But should I sacrifice and bite the bullet and do maybe a 2-year residency, and maybe that residency could be better for me in the long run and to set me up for the job that I really want.
Yeah.
So,
And what are you thinking? Doing the residency? or
depending
going-
what day it is.
Yeah.
Some days I'm like, I'm ready to get out, get this check,
Yeah,
and
we
move
have
on.
that option for a residency as well. That's something that's new to PT, the option to come out. If you want to specialize in a particular field, then they suggest doing that. But at the same time, they kind of say, get out, get your feet wet in a lot of different, settings, and then make that decision. So,
But I will say, I'm kind of leaning towards residency. It's nothing wrong with going straight into the workforce, but it kind of limits yourself, because I've seen where pharmacists have become burnt out and really can't move any way up. The thing with the residencies is they're opening more positions. Vanderbilt just opened one. It's kind of up my alley. It's a healthcare administrative role, kind of going to be geared to directors of pharmacy, pharmacy supervisors. And so if I take their residency, for 2 years I may make 55, but a pharmacy director makes about $250 a year.
I mean, I think being that, well, speaking for myself, being that I've never made money, of course money is a factor. It's like any money is good money because I've never made anything. So I think that's always going to be the initial motivator, making money and, making your family stable and stability. But I think at some point, if you ask me, did I look at like the Forbes top 10 list and be like, I'm gonna be an oral surgeon because I didn't do that, So at some point, it has to be what you're passionate about too. I feel like the money will come. And for me, I'm $200,000, $300,000 in debt. I should be the main one over here, like, where my check at.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to go back to school to make $50,000 where my classmates can go right out and make $150,000, $250,000. So I think it's just a sacrifice. I think the money will come, but you have to put in the work for the money. The money's always gonna be there, but like, while you're younger, for me, I think it's easier if you just continue with your education while you have it in you. Because I know a lot of my classmates, they've had other careers, they're 40 years old, they've had, they've been a dentist in another country and they come to the US and they have to go back to dental school. And it's like they don't want to, but at the end of the day, they know it'll be more fulfilling because this is what they want to do. So I think you just, long term, not short term. So my parents tell me at least.
I feel the same way. So after graduating, I could have gone to anybody's lab and just done research. Like, we're glad to have you. If you can, produce, get out papers, but then, okay, I want to get paid. I'm not going to stay in school this amount of time and not at least have something to live off of. But in the long run, of course, hopefully I will be making more than what I am now. As everybody's goal is to, be comfortable, and you've put that time in, so you want to reap those benefits. And it doesn't come right away. So when I graduate, it's like, okay, well, where's this? Where's this? I've been in school and I made these sacrifices all this time, so you want it right then. That's what a lot of us want, like that microwave generation. We want it now, but it doesn't come then. So, I'm coming up on 2 years already. So again, that time just goes by. So you want to make sure it's something you want to do, that you really like to do if you were not getting paid, but I would still like it, but I still put that time in. So you definitely still want to get compensated for your expertise, and that's what it is. You're an expert in your field at the time that you finish and that you graduated.
It's funny you should talk about that, 2 years now. I've been looking at salaries, right? And everybody in the research field says postdocs are the cheap labor. And we get paid like cheap labor. But you think about it, having to take that postdoc, it sets you up in the long run. So like we want to be faculty, right? Most faculty at base level make 78. Well, with me, I'm learning extra skills, grant writing, and so that way I can go up to that 6 figure. So I'm setting myself up, you know, with more training, so that way I can or don't have to worry about that money situation, and still teach like I want to do.
Just to piggyback on Smarble and Chrissy, so, you know, I'm at the point where I'm like a year away from, you know, getting that degree, but my goal to my postdoc, I should be making more than I'm making now. But I mean, like, that's the thing, it's like, I don't want to be, you know, I should be mid-range or whatever, but I know not to expect too high, but I know, like, look, I just got that in grad school, and nobody trying to get that now, so. I'm just being real, like, so that's how it is for me, but I'll let you answer your question, I got a question too.
Okay. So, yeah, I think money should be a very big factor, especially for minorities. You know, like, if we don't go out there and get it, someone else is going to get it. You know, we actually need a lot more money in our community. So, I think it's imperative that we also, you know, like, are happy with what we do, but also go out there and get that money. And at the same time, like, it doesn't have to be in your necessarily like your profession, like there's businesses, real estate, things that you also like. You can use your field to have seed money to go into another business and things like. But be multifaceted. Like that's what I feel like we should be as minority, because like just here around TSU or whatever, like there's so much potential, you know, but a lot of it's not black owned. You know, like a lot of the good businesses around here aren't black owned, and I feel like, you know, we need to be out there doing more business and like bring a lot more money back into the community. So for me, I think it's very important that we're really out there, like, not necessarily just being money driven, but yeah, being money driven, like, because we need to bring money into the community for the people that our families and the people that are coming up behind us. So I think it's really important. So yeah, I mean, you said that it shouldn't be like a primary thing. I feel like it's kind of like I think it's just as important as like what your passion is. I think money should really be as important, because we live in a capitalist society and everything's about the money.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you're kind of taught not to say in an interview.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I came into physical therapy school and they're like, you know, why did you want to do this? If, you know, part of you wanted to be like that chick. You know what I'm saying? But you can't say that because they're going to be like, get out. You know, so it's just one of those things that, I mean, it's just kind of nice to have a set and be able to ask everybody else what was going through their head whenever they were asking the same
Most
question.
people are like that.
There's two comments on the question.
Okay.
Comments for you, so if you didn't notice about me, and at least my question with them. One, I also got the PhD because I noticed the majority of my professors going in here, even at Tennessee State University, are foreign.
Yes.
There's one African American professor over there now that I know personally. He was a PhD when I was a master's student, Dr. Charles McCurdy. So I know that's the only African American engineering teacher, and it's like when you come in and you're trying to do that, it'd be nice to see something of your own kind teaching you, so you know you have what to look forward to. And especially when I go out to when I go back to Boeing, I've had one manager that was African American. Every other manager or mentor or anything, I'm surrounded by every other race or every other nationality. I pretty much don't think I've only worked with one other black in the area, but I mean they're in the building, but they don't work in my particular area. And that's it. But that's the comment part. The one comment. The other comment was kind of, if you don't mind me speaking to what you were saying about the money thing, I saw that same mindset shift for me when it came to Boeing. When I first went to Boeing, I was officially still a master's student, so I only was getting paid based on having a bachelor's. I completed my master's in the middle of working for Boeing. When I completed it, my pay, they gave me a salary rate that they tell me, it jumped drastically from bachelor's to master's. I was not expecting it. I just go to get my paycheck that one day, and I was like, did they make a mistake? So I went to my employee accountant, and I was like, oh, it said pay for knowledge or something like this. So they pay us for their growth in knowledge. That was from bachelor's to master's. So I've already said, this is what they jumped for this, and I'm already told they're waiting for my PhD for me to get the next one. that drives me right there if I wanted to go. That's why I said they have to match what Boeing is giving me benefit-wise and pay for me to step out. Cause they really surprised me with the jump. Like most people think, I don't know, it was over 15,000 on the first jump. And that was from bachelor's to master's. So that alone made me say, okay, well, the money just drive me there. But one thing just goes with the comment. I learned from when I was younger, I forget who originally said it to me, but I've heard it many times and now I apply it to my life all the time is, I find if you find a job that you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life. So I do it that way. What I do in engineering, I love it. So even though the pay, I do want it to match what I'm enjoying, but that's not my focus. So that's like you were saying, it's important to me because I want to make sure I'm living comfortably, but it's not as, I'm not sitting there counting every single dollar, you need to give me this amount, but I'm still paying attention to it because my current HR, she said when you get that first, once I finish, you get that first full-time employment with no summer breaks, no breaks from just the summer, go ahead and ask for 10, 15,000 more. If they already give you a plan, but you ask for a little bit more, you can either get it, half of it, or get what they originally give you. Either way, you're still getting paid. But you only get one chance to do it. So I'm gonna take that risk that time, see if I can get it.
Right.
The question is, because I was speaking about the professor being, is it required to be a faculty that you must have a postdoc?
No,
That's what I was gonna
it's not, it's not.
It's beneficial.
That's why I pointed out. I don't think I can hold going off another 2 years, saying, let me go get my postdoc and work in this postdoc for a little bit, and then come work with y'all. They already being nice enough to keep holding me for PhD.
And let me also say, with us being in the engineering field, that is field specific too. You normally see postdocs in the sciences, and you see them in the social sciences. You don't really see them with engineering.
But I just work with a postdoc, so that's why I know.
Yeah, they have, I mean, in terms of, and y'all were talking with more since you're in it, I'm talking in terms of, quantity.
Yeah.
Majority of the time when you see postdocs, it's in the hard sciences, your biology, your chemistry, and you see it a lot in education.
I've seen only 2 to 3 postdocs total in the entire engineering.
Yeah, we don't, in engineering, we don't really, home in on postdocs as much, and I don't know why.
We do internships though, going
We
through
do
school, right?
internships.
So we don't do
Yeah.
that. We don't
So
do that.
maybe that's why. We really do a lot of, and I talked about this in the first session, where, like every summer, when I was in school getting my engineering degrees, I was out working somewhere. Whereas you all, which I said I don't agree on, you all, they do research in the summer, they don't go anywhere. Which I think is kind of bad because when they get out, they don't have that practical experience that you and I, or that DPT has, to draw on. And they even said, we haven't said that yet, but one of the things we talked about earlier, in the earlier session, was how that really is a hindrance. It could potentially be a hindrance. In many cases it is, because they're coming out with no practical experience. Whereas engineers, we are groomed to, in the summertime, go get internships.
What you just
So-
said just triggered something.
Yeah, so maybe that is why.
Well, it
why
depends on
postdocs, so-
what you're trying to do. You know, if you're trying to be just in research, that's what you do during school anyway. So
Yeah.
you're learning those skills. If you're
Right.
trying to teach, if you don't have a teaching assistant job, then you're having to go out there and find programs like the Sparkles in where you teach and do research. So it really depends on what your ultimate goal is
Right.
and how you do things. Like sometimes in the summer, I went to a bioinformatics course, well, I took the summer off, you know. So it depends on what you want to do. You make it what you will.
I guess almost too, real quick, I don't want to stop you. I guess we could look at maybe, if I turn mine down, the Jim Fellow. That could be, potentially could be deemed as a postdoc, the Jim Fellowship, you know.
They lead you for it. For real.
Exactly.
'Cause
So,
I-
like I said, it doesn't, it's not necessarily that it doesn't happen. You just don't see it as often as you do in the hard sciences.
So the idea of the postdoc though is to get productivity. So it's basically, you got this degree, right? You got this certain training, what can you do with it? That's the whole, really the point of a postdoc. What can you do with your degree and your training?
So when she was referring to she asked a question about your being published before, was that published before the postdoc or during the postdoc?
During your PhD, yeah, publish, how many publications do we need to have to actually get to this?
So you're saying during the getting the PhD, not
Yes.
for the postdoc? Okay.
Uh-huh.
I was asking because I've been published 4 times already, so.
But there are, with me being down, which is a great thing for me, straddling both fences, so I can speak to the hard science as well as the social science. And there are many social science postdocs that you cannot get if you're not published.
Yeah, I was just trying to see what was the I guess the difference, like, I know in the PhD, I think here we're required to do two to three, to graduate, to get your PhD. So if you don't have 2 to 3, even if you do everything else right, you still gotta have 2 to 3 being published, in some way. So that's why I went and got my 4 out of the way, so I got one, might do one more next year, but outside that, they won't be able to say I didn't have that part. But if I did, I just wanted to get
Just
that
like
out.
anything, it's being competitive, so if you have 5 versus someone that has 2, they're gonna look at your application more favorable than that other person, but it's not on the application to say, okay, you need this many. So that's with every level, is what sets you apart, you know, the top tier versus, you know, the middle or the average. So
How
it's-
productive you are.
Right.
Really is what it boils
Because you could have one publication in a top tier journal, just one,
Right.
and beat out someone that has 3 in a mid to low level journal. You see what I'm saying? A
So the
non-
top two journals like science and medicine, you know, nature, those big
It's
ones
what-
that everybody sees.
I guess the difference for us is I can be, if as far as my field, you have a publication, like I published through one particular conference that is specifically electrical engineering and system engineering, but I learned a new one that I'm going to apply to coming up, which is what Boeing would look into as well, which is aeronautical and it's not aeronautical, it's I forgot the full name of it, but it's aircraft flights and things like that. So my work does in it, I've just never tried to publish in that.
Yeah, and I think it's all about you all knowing your field. Because for instance, I publish now, I do no hard science, I do all social science. And so I know the journals within social science and education that are tier 1, the tier 2 and tier 3. You know, you and DBT, y'all should know those journals, and you should know how they're tiered. You all should know the journals you need to publish in. But like I said, I mean, like Chris said, I mean, it's not a catch-all. So again, you could publish one in a tier 1 and someone that has 3 in a tier 3 and you outdo them. Because to get in a tier 1 where their acceptance rate is only like 5% and blah, 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 I mean, that's huge. As opposed to a journal that has like a 95% acceptance rate and it's a tier 3. You know, you have to know your own field.
Well, what I was saying that you triggered that was interesting. It's like, I thought of it that way, but I guess you really proved it. You said about they do research during the summer mostly. We were doing internship. I feel like as a PhD, I'm just a professional researcher. So, because all I do with my PhD when it comes to the work, for dissertation and all that, is I'm doing, especially engineering, is I'm researching everything that's already out there, everything that's capable to see where I can enhance it or make it better. And whenever I go to Boeing, I'm actually doing hands-on work. So that's why I always kind of found it interesting that they want me to get my PhD, but yet every time I work for you, you give me direct application, not necessarily researching it. But I've been told that once I get the PhD, they probably put me more on not necessarily a manager, but right there near a manager level where I would help them come together with what should they be looking forward to down the road versus.
That's exactly why they want that PhD, because you have that knowledge, you have the capability to seek out new things and make Boeing better.
So you were thinking about a postdoc, is that what you were saying?
Like I mentioned, I wanted to possibly teach.
You don't turn down jobs now.
That's what I
So
said.
you have your job, if I had that.
I just wanted to make sure that it wouldn't
Yeah,
hurt me
you
when
don't
it comes to trying to become a faculty
Stay
one
where
day.
you are,
Right,
that's
right.
great. If it's not
But if you
growth,
look at it, if you want to become faculty, that job at Boeing is your postdoc.
Yes.
That is your experience. Postdoc is just
I
experience.
mean, you
That's all
could
it
do,
is.
like my brother, he was the whole thing about, told everybody earlier, he's like, why are you going to HBCU for grad school? He thinks you should go to majority school. But it's like, it's me getting out there, conferences and workshops. We all, during the summers, we went to different things. So stay a week at a time or a few days, present your research, and that's how you get out there and get those other opportunities as far as jobs. So for a postdoc, I had to explain to him, I mean, he's been, corporate America, he actually went here for undergrad and got business information systems degree, bachelor's, and then he did a master's. So he's up there, he's moving along the ladder, and he is motivated by the money. So he's moved around, and if they're not speaking money, once he got his master's, his second master's, then he's gone. He's going to the next level as to where they're gonna meet his salary, for his education and experience. So for him, I had to explain to him, hey, I'm in, this field. In your field, yeah, you can go right out. He had the internships and everything while he was in school. He could go right out and, make a good 60 or 70 and then climb up the ladder from there. So he's in 10 years or more experience now. I had to explain to him, okay, well, this is what I need to do now. I need to do my postdoc, get out there, get trained, and then I will be more marketable later on. So his whole thing was, you're gonna make this much now, for how long? You need to go to industry, you need to do whatever you need to do to get to climb on up to the money. But everybody has their own path and their way that this is what we have to do for now.
And,
So,
oh, sorry. And, to get back on the money thing, I was at a panel discussion in January that talked about professional pathways, and, someone mentioned that it's always good to have different streams of income. So aside from, you know, what your major thing that you do, you need to have different streams of income based upon, you know, who you are, what you like to do. And I started thinking about that. I was like, okay, what do I like to do? So I like to write non-scientific literature. And so one day, like, my goal is to publish a book that's non-scientific related. So, okay, that could be another stream of income for me. So it's that type of thing.
see, so just thought about, yeah, I've always thought about an MBA, but I said I was gonna collaborate. I wanna go back to school, thought about an MPH, I'm like, wow, I'll be in school forever if I do all of my passions and things. I like organizing things, so it's a lot of passions. I mean, I do teaching part-time now. I've been dancing since I was younger. I'm a Zumba instructor, so I teach dance. So I'm trying to get every aspect. I'm grabbing everywhere. So it's not gonna be just my salary. So I'm on the hustle over here with this, over here. So you can have various incomes. Everybody's looking at, you're a postdoc, you don't make much. But I'm like, okay, just wait and see in another 10 years. Like, hey, I could be managing myself, and I may be your manager, and then I want to open a studio for dancing. So I'm just grabbing at it, just going, you know. So I can get incomes various ways.
And I just want to comment on what you had said, like the lack of African Americans in the academia environment. I think in maybe just my profession, but when you talk to most people and why they don't want to go into teaching, it's because of the money. They don't pay enough. So although we are money motivated, we want to make all this money. If you're at Moen making $100,000 and you really want to go teach, and they're like, oh, 50, are you going to be able to make that sacrifice? I feel like, you know, I challenge us all, even to remember when we get to that point, you know, to give back in any way that you can. I feel like going into teaching is a way of giving back, but you can't be so money focused that you just forget your purpose, you know? So I'm just saying that, you know, to see more of us, you
Have
got
you considered like evenings? I teach evenings,
Yeah,
I'm adjunct.
I have my first mentor I told you about, the one that was African American, he actually went through physics and then went on to engineering after his master's and PhD. So he went back to was doing part-time adjunct professor for physics.